Welcome to the first deep dive, prepared by MindCast Academy. This is the deep dive.
Yeah, the show where we take a whole pile of sources, could be articles, research notes, you name it, and really dig in.
We're looking for those key insights, the surprising bits, and maybe just enough humor to make it all stick. We want to make complex stuff feel accessible.
Think of us as your guides, helping you get informed quickly because, well, we genuinely love exploring these topics. And for this deep dive, you've shared some fascinating material on something that affects, well, pretty much everyone, self-compassion.
Right. Our sources today are drawn mainly from excerpts based on the work of researcher Kristin Neff.
A pioneer in this field.
Definitely. So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Get into this material and figure out what self-compassion really is, why it seems to matter so much, and according to these sources, how it could actually change things for you.
We know you want that solid understanding, those aha moments, without wading through endless pages.
Right, exactly. So no point waiting around. Let's just dive in.
Okay, let's kick off with something probably very familiar. You walk in the door, maybe it's been a long day, and that little voice inside just starts up immediately.
Oh, that voice. Yeah.
Maybe you forgot to do something simple, like, pick up groceries on the way home.
Yeah, and it doesn't say, oh, well, busy day. No, it's more like that dialogue in the source material. So you're finally home. Did you get the groceries? And even if you did remember that one time.
Right. Then it shifts. Well, if you weren't so forgetful normally, maybe I wouldn't have to constantly remind you. Or just, that general dismissal. Ah, that's the exception. Wish you weren't so unreliable. It's brutal.
It really is. That constant internal nagging. The sources suggest a lot of this comes from, well, the ego trying to protect itself.
Projecting flaws outwards, like, it's your fault, not mine.
Think about how many arguments get fueled by that. Everyone's just trying to justify themselves, avoid taking any blame, even though, like the source says, conflict usually takes two, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and living with that constant self-judgment, it sounds exhausting, frankly. The source describes it like a sugar high, then a crash.
Yeah, you get that quick hit from maybe blaming someone else, feeling a bit superior for a second.
But then comes the despair, because you can't always be special or above average. It's impossible.
And that leads right into shame, doesn't it? That heavy feeling of, I'm just not good enough, or even I'm worthless.
Precisely. And the sources point out that because we anticipate that harsh internal criticism, we often hide the truth even from ourselves. It's just easier not to look too closely at our own mistakes if we know we're just going to attack ourselves for them.
Okay, now this connects interestingly to what the source says about our society's obsession with self-esteem. For ages, we've been told it's the absolute key to psychological health, like this, magical pot of gold.
Oh yeah. The source even mentions that California task force back in the 80s, they had these huge ambitions. Reduce crime, boost the economy, all by just pumping up everyone's self-esteem.
But the research highlighted in the source really throws cold water on that idea.
It does. High self-esteem didn't reliably translate into better grades or job performance. It didn't stop people from engaging in risky behaviors or substance abuse. Often it looked more like a result of success, not the cause of it.
And here's the really surprising part. The source points out that bullies often have high self-esteem.
Wow. Yeah. Bullying can actually be a way for them to feel powerful and superior. And people with high self-esteem can sometimes be more sort of cliquish, favoring their own group.
So what is self-esteem then, really? The philosopher William James defined it as an evaluation of our worth, right?
Exactly. And it's often really conditional. It depends on how good we think we are at things we value, or on getting that external approval, that success.
And the source says people try to pump it up in two main ways. Either stick only to things you're already good at,
or constantly compare yourself to others to feel better. At least I'm not as bad as them.
There's that anecdote in the material about the author's goth phase. She was convinced everyone thought she was a fake, a poser.
Yeah, and then later found out some people actually thought she was cool. It just shows how off our assumptions about what others think can be.
And studies back that up too. The source mentions research where people with high self-esteem rated their own social skills way higher than their roommates did.
Right. They overestimated how much people liked them, while folks with low self-esteem tended to underestimate it. But the reality, often both groups were liked about the same. It was their perception that was skewed.
And that case of Robbie, clinging to this idea, he was loved and important because of his job title.
Such a precarious way to live. When he lost the job, that main pillar of his self-esteem just crumbled right before he died. It highlights that addictive quality of contingent self-worth.
It's like that hedonic treadmill idea. You need more and more validation just to feel okay. And the higher you climb based on that external stuff, the harder the fall when you inevitably mess up.
And yet, despite all these pitfalls, so many of us cling to harsh self-criticism. We genuinely believe it's what motivates us, like that old saying, spare the rod, spoil the child, but turned inwards.
The story of Holly in the source is really powerful. Her parents had these super high expectations.
So she drove herself relentlessly, calling herself stupid and lame whenever she slipped up, just trying to make them proud.
So if that kind of motivation works at all, the source suggests it's purely driven by fear.
Yeah, the terror of our own harsh self-criticism, as it's put. But the downsides are huge. It fuels anxiety, which can totally sabotage you in high-pressure situations, public speaking, exams.
Writer's block, yeah.
And it's a massive driver of self-handicapping, deliberately messing things up so you have an excuse if you fail.
Procrastination is the big one there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that story about Jim forgetting his dress shoes for his own wedding until the last minute.
Oh yeah, ending up in those cheap Croc knockoffs.
Perfect example. He could blame the shoes, the stores being closed, anything but facing the possibility of trying his best and still not feeling good enough about the wedding or, the marriage itself.
He preferred failure with an excuse over risking failure after giving his all. That fear is powerful.
Okay, so if harsh judgment and chasing this shaky self-esteem aren't the way forward, what's the alternative? This is where the source really pivots to self-compassion.
And it's presented as a totally different approach, not judging, not evaluating, just accepting yourself with an open heart.
The core definition is pretty simple. Treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and understanding you'd naturally offer a good friend who's struggling, or even a stranger you saw suffering.
The author's personal story about discovering this is quite moving. She was going through a really rough patch, end of her marriage, feeling a lot of shame.
And she found herself in meditation classes, exploring Buddhist ideas, especially Sharon Salzberg's work on loving kindness.
And she talks about asking her fiancé, Rupert, almost incredulously, wait, you mean you're actually allowed to be nice to yourself? Won't I just get lazy? Selfish?
That question hits hard, right? It cuts against everything we're usually taught about needing to be tough on ourselves.
Totally.
But she realized her self-criticism wasn't actually making her better. It was just breeding insecurity, frustration, making her hide from herself because she was afraid of her own self-hatred. Self-criticism, it turns out, just makes things worse.
Whereas self-compassion is described as this, like, precious gift anyone can access. A way to turn pain into an opportunity for inner kindness, like a mother soothing a child.
Exactly, and the source is clear. You don't have to earn it. It's available just because you're a human being going through life.
And the research cited shows it's incredibly beneficial for emotional well-being, for contentment. It's like having this stable inner refuge from all that judgment. The emotional alchemy, the source calls it.
Okay, so let's break down the 3 core components or pillars that the source says make up self-compassion.
Right, what are they?
First up is self-kindness. This is about actively choosing warmth and understanding towards yourself, especially when you suffer, fail, or feel inadequate. It's the opposite of ignoring the pain or lashing out with criticism.
So actually soothing yourself, comforting yourself.
Precisely. And there might be a biological basis. Self-criticism seems to light up the threat system amygdala, cortisol, that stress response.
Fight or flight.
But self-compassion might activate the caregiving system, linked more to oxytocin feelings of safety, connection, warmth. The source even mentions a simple practice, like mentally gently caressing a place where you feel pain, sending kindness there.
Okay, component number 2.
Common humanity. This is the big one for countering isolation. It's recognizing that suffering, failure, feeling imperfect, these aren't your unique flaws. They're part of the shared human condition. We're all in this together.
That's so crucial because that inner critic loves to whisper, you're the only one who feels this way, or everyone else has it figured out.
Exactly. Common humanity says, nope, this is part of being human. The lines that divide us, exercised with teenagers described in the source, really highlights this.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, they call out different painful experiences, parents divorcing, being bullied, losing someone, and teens cross the line if it applies to them. Pretty soon, almost everyone is across the line, realizing just how much suffering they share, even with people they thought were totally different.
Wow, that's powerful. It breaks down those us versus them walls.
It really does. And shifting perspective like that, seeing shared humanity instead of just group divisions, can reduce conflict, like that study mentioned with Jewish students and modern Germans.
Right. Framing the Holocaust as humans being aggressive to other humans led to more forgiveness than focusing only on group identity.
Our imperfections don't make us outcasts. They actually confirm we belong to the human race. It also connects to forgiving others. If you understand the complex causes behind someone's actions, genes, upbringing, circumstances, like the bank robber example.
It makes it easier to let go of anger, right? Both for them and for yourself when you mess up. The author mentions understanding her father's difficult past helped break a painful cycle in their own relationship.
Yeah, it really challenges that cultural ideal of rugged individualism, where we feel totally alone and responsible when things go wrong. Self-compassion says everyone deserves kindness, period.
Okay, and the third pillar.
Mindfulness. This is about observing your thoughts and feelings as they are in the present moment, but without judging them, just acknowledging them. Non-judgmental awareness.
So not trying to suppress difficult feelings.
But also not getting totally carried away by them. The source calls that over-identification, like being so engrossed in a sad movie you forget you're just watching a screen.
Oh, right. Mindfulness helps you realize you're the observer, not just the emotion itself.
It creates what's called meta-awareness. You're aware that you're feeling angry rather than just being lost in the anger. The analogy used is like thoughts and emotions are birds flying through the vast, unchanging sky of your awareness. Awareness holds it all.
And that gives you breathing room.
Exactly. That crucial mental space to choose a wise response instead of just reacting automatically. And this is where those simple, practical mindfulness techniques like mindful breathing are so useful.
How so?
Well, when you feel overwhelmed or angry or anxious, just taking a few slow, deep breaths can create that pause. It calms the nervous system a bit, gives you that space to think, okay, how do I want to handle this? Instead of just snapping or shutting down.
So you could use it before, say, a difficult conversation.
Definitely. Or the source suggests, like if you're a parent feeling stressed with your kids, taking a few breaths yourself first before you interact with them can make a huge difference.
That makes sense. Mindfulness helps you check if your perception is reality or just your own spin on things, right? Like remembering you're watching the movie screen.
Precisely. And the source notes that building mindfulness skills, maybe through something like an MBSR course, directly enhances your ability to be self-compassionate. The three pillars really work together.
Okay, so putting these three together, self-kindness, common humanity, mindfulness, what's the overall effect, according to the sources?
Well, the big picture is deeper emotional well-being, more contentment. It provides this stable inner resource, a refuge from judgment. It really can transform how you experience suffering.
The research cited suggests it's a major protective factor against things like anxiety and depression.
Yes, absolutely. It helps loosen the grip of negative emotions, not by pretending they aren't there, but by allowing you to feel them with acceptance and kindness. Remember that equation. Pain x resistance. Suffering.
Ah, right. Self-compassion reduces the resistance part.
Exactly. And it helps balance out our brain's negativity bias. You know, how bad stuff sticks like Velcro and good stuff slides off like Teflon. Self-compassion helps you hold the difficult experiences more gently so they don't completely take over.
And what about motivation? Does being kind to yourself actually help you achieve things?
It seems counterintuitive, but yes. The source quotes the psychologist Carl Rogers. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change.
Interesting.
And the research bears this out. People high in self-compassion often have standards just as high as self-critics, but they aren't paralyzed by the fear of failure. When they stumble, they're less likely to beat themselves up.
So they can learn from it more easily.
Right. They're more focused on personal growth, on learning goals being driven by interest, seeing mistakes as useful information rather than performance goals, which are all about avoiding failure and seeking external validation. Because they're less afraid to fail, they often end up trying harder and learning more effectively.
What about procrastination? Can it help with that?
Yeah, the source suggests it can. Instead of yelling at yourself for putting things off, you mindfully notice the unpleasant feeling underneath. Maybe it's dread or boredom or overwhelm, and you offer yourself some kindness for feeling that way. Validating the feeling can actually reduce its power to keep you stuck.
It sounds like it could also lead to making more authentic choices in life.
Definitely. Like Holly, who eventually stopped trying to please her parents and chose to study special education because she loved it. She found her passion once she stopped letting external expectations drive everything.
And what about relationships? How does self-compassion play out there?
It's huge. It helps you heal your own emotional baggage, those old wounds and patterns that inevitably show up in relationships, like the author's pattern of feeling abandoned or Rupert's feeling unfairly treated.
When you're kinder to your own pain, you're less likely to dump it on your partner.
Exactly. That story about the argument over fox hunting is such a good illustration. The initial shame spiral led to digging in heels just to save face, making the fight way worse. It's hard to admit you're wrong when your whole sense of self feels like it's on the line.
So while having someone love you is great, that deep sense of acceptance needs to come from inside first.
That's what the source strongly suggests. Otherwise, you might always have that nagging doubt. If they really knew me, flaws and all, would they still love me?
The idea of taking a self-compassion break during an argument sounds really practical.
Yeah, just pausing the blame game for a second. Offering yourself some kindness for feeling hurt or angry can help you step back and respond more constructively.
And that story about Diane and Eric, where he helped her use self-compassion to deal with her fear after an accident.
It shows how it can work within a relationship, with partners supporting each other and being kinder to themselves.
Okay, let's talk parenting. How does self-compassion fit in there?
Modeling it is absolutely key. Letting your kids see you handle your own mistakes without freaking out. Saying something calm like, "Oops, how annoying, I forgot to get gas," instead of, yelling at yourself.
And it changes how you correct them too, right? Focusing on the behavior, not attacking their character.
Absolutely. You hurt Mary's feelings when you told her to shut up, versus, "You're so rude." The first helps them learn empathy and responsibility without making them feel like they're fundamentally bad kids. You validate the feeling behind the behavior, but guide the action.
The source mentioned time-ins instead of time-outs.
Yeah, the idea is staying with the child during difficult emotions, helping them feel accepted even when they're upset or have messed up. But crucially, it also notes that parents might need to take those few mindful breaths first to regulate their own emotions before they can offer that calm presence.
That's important. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And the author's experience parenting her son Rowan, who has autism, really brings it home. Self-compassion helped her accept the reality of his condition and her own imperfections as a parent, allowing for more connection and less struggle.
What about body image and eating? That's such a huge area of struggle for many people.
Self-compassion offers a powerful antidote to the constant societal pressure and shame around bodies and sexuality.
It helps you accept imperfections.
Yes, and relate to your body and your sexuality in a healthier, less judgmental way. The source emphasizes there's no single right way, just what's healthy or unhealthy for you.
How does it help with things like binge eating or dieting cycles?
Well, binge eating is often about numbing difficult emotions. Self-compassion offers a kinder way to deal with those feelings directly. And yo-yo dieting is often fueled by self-hatred. You restrict, inevitably fail, criticize yourself harshly, which then often triggers more unhealthy eating. It's a vicious cycle.
Oprah's approach is mentioned.
Yeah, focusing on health, strength, and motivating change through kindness rather than self-loathing or chasing some impossible ideal.
Okay, finally, the source talks about self-appreciation. How is that different from self-compassion?
Think of it as the flip side of the coin. Self-compassion is for suffering. Self-appreciation is for joy, strengths, and the good things.
Like gratitude.
Very related. It connects to the Buddhist concept of mudita, or sympathetic joy, feeling happy for others' good fortune, but applied inward. It's not fragile self-esteem based on being better than others. It's appreciating your own inherent worth and positive qualities, even the simple things.
Like being able to breathe or walk or hug someone.
Exactly. Appreciating the beautifully average things. Practices like gratitude journals or consciously savoring pleasant moments like that pleasure walk study are ways the source suggests cultivating this and boosting overall happiness.
And the source material includes specific exercises for all of this.
Yes, it details quite a few practical tools: writing a compassionate letter to yourself, doing a body scan meditation, using a self-compassion mantra, visualizing a safe place, identifying your relationship patterns, taking that break during conflict, mindful breathing in daily life, gratitude, savoring, lots of ways to put it into action.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Based on these excerpts from Kristin Neff's work, the core message seems to be that self-compassion, combining that kindness, the sense of common humanity and mindful acceptance, offers a really powerful, sustainable alternative to harsh self-judgment and the roller coaster of contingent self-esteem.
It seems to be a path towards navigating difficulties more effectively, fostering real growth, and building healthier relationships. It's about replacing that inner critic with an inner ally.
And in today's world, with all the pressure and information overload, learning to treat yourself with that kind of understanding feels less like a luxury and more like, well, a necessity for well-being, for actually thriving.
It's about offering yourself the support you need right when you need it, without feeling like you have to somehow earn it first. It's already yours.
All right, so here's a final thought to leave you with, something to maybe mull over. If our biggest worries about being kind to ourselves, that we'll become lazy or selfish, are largely unfounded according to this research.
Then what's the real obstacle? What truly stops us from embracing self-compassion more fully? Is it maybe just the discomfort of feeling our own pain without immediately judging it? Or perhaps it's the fear of letting go of that familiar identity we've built around being tough on ourselves.
Something to consider. We will be with you every Wednesday at 12 o'clock with new episodes. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications.